What's going on? It's your boy Dalton from the Petrol List, and we're going to talk about the Qatar Grand Prix. I mean, that was an entertaining race, but for all the wrong reasons. Typically, a race is entertaining because there are great overtakes and skill and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there was all that in this race as well, but it was mostly entertaining because it was an absolute circus. It was a train wreck, and it's one of those things where you just see everything going wrong, and you can't look away. So in that sense, it was a bit of a circus, and circuses are entertaining. I'm sure that's not how F1 wanted to be interesting, but that's how they did it. Now, the circus didn't just start with the Grand Prix itself. It actually started with George Russell's complaint about Max Verstappen. If you missed it, I'll try to do a quick synopsis of the story. And at this point, I'm actually defending Max Verstappen. It's weird. In the latter half of the season, it's become one of my favorite drivers on the grid. Kind of weird to say. Anyway, Max Verstappen is doing a warm-up lap. And he stays on the racing line as one does because you don't want to get the tires dirty before you start qualifying. The Mercedes pit wall comes over the radio to George Russell and says, "Hey, you've got Max Verstappen," and I think maybe it was Fernando Alonso in sector whatever. Just so you know, so he's got audio. Heads up. And then I watched the replay, and you can see Max's car way out in the distance, plenty of time to make an adjustment. But instead, George Russell kind of aims his car at the back of Max Verstappen's car, and then at the very end kind of feigns like he just saw Max and he had to somehow do evasive action to get off the track and avoid a collision. If you ask me, in that instance, it was actually George Russell who was driving dangerously, getting ready to do a rear ending on a car just so he could go back to the stewards and complain. Now, that complaint really did not age well. And this is why, because George Russell ended up getting fourth place anyway, and he kind of pulled a Lando Norris, or maybe the proper statement is Verstappen turned him into a Lando Norris because he converted pole position. George Russell converted pole position into P3 on the first lap. We'll get into that later. But the other reason why it didn't really age well is George Russell had just earned a little bit of street cred, a little clout, a little bit of favor, because he was the name behind the driver's letter to basically MBS, to the FIA, asking for transparency. Ironically, turns out George Russell doesn't seem to be that transparent himself. Now, Max Verstappen is not quiet on the radio. He airs his grievances, but if there's one thing I gotta give to the guy, is he brings the same energy. He's to all situations. He's not afraid to call people out in front of their faces, and the public arena. So for me, consistency and integrity kind of go hand to hand in that regard. And George Russell does, the smiley, uber polite role play in public. And then apparently, and it's been corroborated by other folks, he's a little bit of a backstabber in private. So, kind of smiling at you, and then gets into a meeting, tries to throw you the F under the bus. Now, let me take a look at my phone real quick, because there were some really heated quotes from Max Verstappen regarding George Russell, and I'm going to read those to you right now. I am going to have to edit some of them So I guess this is during an interview, and someone says to Max Verstappen, "Are you going to talk about it with Russell?" And by it, they're referring to that qualifying complaint. And Max says, "Not right now." But you know what it is? He always acts extremely polite in front of the cameras. But if you sit together with him personally, he's a completely different person. I truly can't stand that. Then you might as well F off. I don't want anything to do with you. And he's referring to George Russell, of course. And then another one, he says about George, "I've been in the meeting room, the stewards, many times in my career. I've never seen someone trying to screw someone that hard. And then I lost all respect." Yeah, as one would. I think the losing of respect is definitely justified there. Now, okay, two more things. I don't know if you know this, but since Ocon's departure to Haas was made public, Ocon has only out qualified Pierre Gasly twice. Now, prior to that, Ocon had a 9-4 win record against Gasly in qualifying. And just a side note, Ocon is 28 years old, so I doubt that he is suffering from cognitive decline. Wink, wink. I said in a video before that is definitely something that Toto Wolff could have left out of that entire book. That's another thing that's not aging well. As a matter of fact, his leadership is not aging well. Whole different story. But the reason I share that Ocon little bit of trivia with you is because it runs parallel to what's happening with Lewis Hamilton. Magically, his car sucks like all the time. I'm not going to go too deep into that because, we kind of already know that story. And if you go on Mercedes Instagram or their Twitter, every single time they post, the bulk of the comments are, Lewis Hamilton deserves better. I know that there's some folks out there that say, "Oh, Lewis Hamilton fans, cry more," all that stuff. But if you have eyes, you can see it. Mercedes is screwing the guy over. And I personally think it's kind of dangerous. And I think, Haas should have treated Ocon better in terms of, just the driving. And love him or hate him, Verstappen really did get screwed over by the officials. Now, he took care of that because he's great in lap 1, turn 1, and that is the end of that. All right, let's get into the race, why don't we? So, like I was saying, lap 1, turn 1. George Russell actually had an awesome start, but Max had more grip, more grit, and I would say more bravery going into P1. And squeezes into P1 on lap 1, turn 1, and Lando Norris also squeezes by in tow. Leaves George Russell in P3. And then lap 1, we have the first yellow flag. Nico Hülkenberg loses grip, hits Ocon. Ocon hits Colapinto. And now we've got cars out of the race. We've got them already DNFing in lap 1. And then also in lap 1, Stroll loses grip and hits Albon. And Hamilton gets a false start, for which he will have to serve a 5-second penalty. Lap 5, we've got a second yellow flag. Lawson goes off, but not before hitting Bottas and collecting a 10-second penalty. So you're kind of starting to see where the clown show is coming from. All right, lap 10. K-Mag shows why he is the most underrated driver on the grid, in my opinion. The overtake on Tsunoda on the outside on a grip-less track, I think, was absolutely amazing. Now, to be fair, Gasly and Alonso did pull similar overtakes in laps 13 and 14, but theirs didn't quite have as much commitment or as many moving parts as the overtake that K-Mag did. I think he should still be on a team somehow. Oh, by the way, did I mention that in addition to an 11th team on the grid in 2026, which is already confirmed, which is going to be Cadillac, Mario Andretti is saying that the FIA and F1 are kind of entertaining a 12th team. Oh my gosh, we can bring back all of our favorite drivers now. I don't know if that's going to happen, because we do need to have some of the younger drivers get up there and take some get some seat time too. But anyway, in the off season, I'll probably go deep into that and see if I can research and find out what's really going on there. Lap 24, Russell gets an excruciatingly long pit stop. I want to think it's like 7 seconds. Drops him down to 11th, and then lap 30, someone's mirror falls off. When have you seen that before? Just a random piece falling off of a car. I want to say it was a V-carb or maybe an Alpine, but yeah, the mirror fell off and was basically just a tire grenade waiting for a victim for the rest of the time. And then Lando fails to lift under a yellow flag, and Max Verstappen calls him on it. Now, this is over the radio, public radio, no shame in his game. He's like, yeah, let's get it done. Let's get this done. And I'm sure with the penalties and stuff, Max Verstappen is probably fed up at this point with the stewards, as is everyone else. And it's just like, hey, if we're going to play this game of penalizing every single thing, how about another one? And that earned Lando a 10-second stop-and-go penalty. Now, that may as well be a 30-second penalty, because in order to get to that stop-and-go, you have to pull into the pit lane, which is basically a 20-second penalty in and of itself, and then you have to stop for 10 seconds. I mean, they may as well have just DQ'd the guy and let him go home, because your race is all the way finished at that point, and he drops from a podium position all the way down to, I think, second to last place, just ahead of Hamilton, who had a puncture and a false start and a speeding in the pit lane, which was a drive-through penalty. Like, essentially the worst day ever. I mean, at the end, Hamilton was like, hey, can I just let's just retire the car. I'm sure the amount of sponsorships and all that kind of stuff that are in his contract, they're like, if you park your car now, you will lose a cajillion dollars. And also you'll get a grid penalty for not going back out on the track. So he goes back out on the track, passes somebody, but that's toward the end of the race. Let's get back to, I want to say it's either lap 30 or 31. Bottas hits that mirror that was laying in the middle of the track. And also surprisingly, they didn't do a virtual safety car or something to slow down the cars so that a steward could run out onto the track and pick that little mirror up. I'm sure it would not have taken that long, and I'm sure they have the technology to tell everyone to slow down, and they've got GPS so they can see where all the cars are. Wait till the coast is clear, scurry on out there, and then scurry on back. It's not that complicated. But you know what is complicated? When Lewis Hamilton hits that mirror after Bottas hits the mirror, causing it to turn into basically shrapnel, and gets a flat. And then, you know what's complicated? When Sainz gets a flat because of the same reason. And then, lap 38. Oh my gosh, this is just so much. Lap 38, another safety car. And then Norris gets on the radio to say that Hamilton is speeding in the pit lane. And we already talked about that. It just turns Hamilton's day from bad to worse. And then lap 40, we get a restart. Woo! Racing, finally. And Verstappen edges out Norris into turn one, kind of like he always does. And then Hülkenberg spins out, and yes, we've got another red flag. Lap 46, Lando is serving that insane stop-and-go penalty. Again, like I said, that was like 30 seconds. May as well just disqualify the car, like I said. And then he goes from podium to almost last place. Lap 49, I'm going to give some flowers to Kevin Magnussen again. He's going out racing. Amazing pass, and then a lovely little F-off to commemorate it. And Russell, at the end of the race, has converted pole position to P4. Max wins the race, and Zhou gets driver of the day. Cats and dogs are holding hands, walking down the street. Rain is shooting upward back into the sky, and the grass is orange, and the sky is purple. I don't know. It was just an absolute clown show. And it's so strange because they went from the Las Vegas GP, which was one of the best races I've seen in a very long time, to one of the worst races I've seen in a very long time. And that to me just says that FIA, Formula One, they really, truly need to get their act together. And even the teams, you know, the leadership from McLaren and Mercedes, both of those teams really could have had a better shot at drivers' championships and constructors' championships, and I don't know why. They just decided that they didn't want to win. So they gave it to Max and Christian Horner, and at the end of the day, hey, they're the one team that was out there trying to win. It takes a whole team. They're the one team, so that's why they won. I really hope that next year is better. I'm sure it will be, because you're going to have Lewis Hamilton, not necessarily just in a fast car, but knock wood, with a team that is supporting him fully. I'm not going to be a Mercedes fan next year. I can't stomach them anymore. But what I will do is I'm definitely going to be watching to see what Kimi Antonelli does versus George Russell. And rumor has it that Perez might be out of Red Bull by the end of next year. So, you know, there's a lot of ground to cover in the off season and in the next couple of seasons. 22 through 23, I think, were really predictable seasons. 24, a lot less predictable, a lot more entertaining. 25, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Can George Russell make good on his threats to give Max Verstappen a run for his money? I don't think so. I don't know if Mercedes is going to make the Mercedes consistently fast enough. It's only fast when it's really cold. That's not all of the races, my friend. You're going to have Hamilton in a much faster car with a lot more team support. You're going to have Antonelli giving it all he's got. I think George Russell has a lot more to think about next year before he is going to be able to concentrate on Max Verstappen. I think that's a bit of a pipe dream, but who knows? I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Could be wrong. But I think that's where it's at. This is nearly a 20-minute video, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. But first, this has been The Petrolist. I've been Dalton, and you've been amazing.